Was that in the city of Wuxi in my province? I mean, a small city of 10 million people. Yeah.
Small city.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Impulse podcast by Momentum Works. So today it's almost the fourth episode where we're going to be talking about Brazil in a year because Didi has just launched food delivery this Monday, or by the time you're watching it last Monday on 9 June in Goiânia.
You been there?
No, I had to Google how to pronounce
it?
Yeah, Goiânia.
Goiânia. Okay.
Goiânia.
It's a small city. No, it's not really a small city. It's like a 1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.4, 1.5.
Yeah, by Asian standard, quite small. It's the 10th largest city in Brazil, located in the center of the country. So that's the first city that Didi is launching.
So Didi has launched in Goiânia. Why do you think they chose to launch in, like you said, the 10th largest city instead of a bigger city first?
Why would you launch in a bigger city first?
I don't know, bigger population, higher density.
Yeah, I think this launch is a test. So basically, when you test, you try to do that in an environment where it's easier to control, and that's actually a strategy tested by many players. You look at Meituan's Keeta. When they first launched in Saudi Arabia, they started in the city of Al-Hajj, which is I think a fairly small city. But once they test, validate, to see how the whole process, the product works, and they will expand very quickly across the country. So
you test in a smaller,
more
field,
more
sample
control,
testing.
Yeah. But once you have finished the test, you should very quickly go into the bigger cities, São Paulo, etc.
So it's likely that we'll see Meituan sort of doing something similar, right? Because they have announced their intention to enter Brazil as well.
I think many people in China believe that Didi accelerated their plan to do it in Brazil because Meituan is doing that, because they want to stay ahead of Meituan.
Because, I mean, this is not the first time that Didi is entering food delivery in Brazil, right? They entered a couple of years back.
2019.
2019. Yeah.
So, and at that time they already had some reasonable presence in Mexico. I think internally they discussed whether they should really ramp up to win Mexico, or they should also expand to Brazil, which is a larger market. I think Brazil population like twice that of Mexico. I think the team wanted to do Brazil. So the leadership said, sure, fine, you go and do it, and that's the end of 2019. And but I felt that from an organization point of view, they were not very sure how much they should invest in Brazil, because they didn't have the chance, right? They never had full resources, and a few months after launched, COVID hit, and COVID is supposed to be
help you accelerate this food delivery business and all, right?
Of course, it creates lots of demand, but for them, it's just a few months into operations, so the infrastructure is not ready to catch that demand. So that opportunity they didn't manage to catch.
But of course, now I think this time around, Didi is a lot more confident in terms of they have a pretty large fleet. So obviously, they had the riders on the Didi app.
Yes, they have the mobility,
which they can engage to do food delivery, and of course they also have their long-term executives leading this now, right? Who are the long-term executives? Both names start with M.
I think they're not announced publicly.
No. I mean, there's no point for them to announce publicly, but yeah, there are a group of people who have been working with Didi in Latin America for about 10 years, and they are leading this. I mean, it shows that the organization is serious about this launch. And I think they also have some pretty capable executives who are hired locally or who have been with the acquired company 99 for a while. So, I think overall, when we compare the teams of Didi and Meituan, I just feel that Didi's people they're much more international. So many of them, many of the Chinese executives on Didi are hired from Hong Kong investment banks or hired from MNCs. So they have a sort of, compared to many Meituan executives we have seen, the Didi ones will speak better English. They have experience communicating with people outside China. So that's probably one advantage that they have.
So I think another advantage is that Didi has been in Brazil for a while. Even though it's not food delivery, they have had operations
since
there.
2018.
Whereas this is Meituan's first venture into Brazil. So there will definitely be some advantage there in terms of at least knowing the market.
Yeah, the question is that how do you turn that into actual advantage, right? the existing structure could also be a baggage if you don't use it effectively.
That's true. But of course, this is not the first time that we see Didi and Meituan competing at this scale, right?
Yeah.
The last time was, I think, 2017, 2018?
Yes.
2017, that was a much larger scale. That was like crazy to me.
China.
So that was in China where Meituan they piloted their ride-hailing.
Yes.
And then Didi also tried entering food delivery in China.
And there was a famous saying that the Didi founder Chen Wei said back then. He said, "Oh, if you want to fight, let's fight."
And they did. They burned a lot of money, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of subsidies. A lot of like.
Someone was telling me that each of them were burning about 20 million RMB a day.
A day.
Which is smaller than what JD is burning on food delivery now, but the standard then it was like pretty aggressive. I think was that in the city of Wuxi in my province? I mean, a small city of 10 million people. Yeah.
Small city.
So when Didi was attacking Meituan there, I think Meituan was like ferrying riders by trains or by lorries into the city to defend, just to make sure that merchants on Meituan have enough sort of fulfillment capacity. So they built this network, right? Whenever there's a city under attack from a rival, they could quickly send people from other cities to yeah. That's something.
Mobilize their force.
That is something that we talk about in another of our podcast episode. We say that in larger countries like this, there is usually an oversupply of riders.
So then they can move them around more easily.
Yeah. And of course, in China, you have the expressway, you have the high-speed rail. So
it's even easier.
And so I mean, this is a discussion I've discussed with lots of executives in Southeast Asia as well. And their challenges, I mean, is Southeast Asia is a lot of the economy is concentrated in capital cities, so you don't have a depth, a strategic depth that you can defend.
But it's unlikely that we'll see such a similar strategy play out between Didi and Meituan. Obviously, the economic environment now is very different from what it was in 2017, 2018.
Investors are much more demanding for you to show results.
These companies are also a lot more ROI focused now, right? They wouldn't burn as much money.
Or rather, I mean, whatever money they burn, they need to have very, very strong justification. So they can't just say that, okay, I want to increase market share, therefore I burn money. So they need they need to have had done the calculations. So what the ROI of this money that, I mean, everybody has this, I mean, Temu has this, TikTok Shop has this, everyone's forced to calculate what's the ROI. I think you and I were in a few workshops where we talk about ROI and investment. They try to track everything.
But it's interesting because we discuss this topic a lot, and I feel something that people don't mention as much is, of course, the current player in Brazil, which is iFood. So like you said, they have a 90% market share, almost 90% market share, right? But when we bring up this discussion of Didi or Meituan entering food delivery in Brazil, people tend to forget about iFood that's already there.
No, people don't forget about them. I mean,
it's just in the back of your mind.
I mean, it's there, right? I mean, obviously, the company has been around for a long time, and they managed to kick out all the competitors to build this market share. So they are pretty formidable. But I think because Didi's preoccupation is really Meituan, right? Because they already have the advantage. I mean, if Meituan enters there and builds something ahead of Didi, and I think they will face lots of pressure especially because I think they probably have very similar investor base. So I know a few months ago I heard that Didi was really thinking very hard, saying, okay, where would Meituan possibly expand to? Is there any country, even including some countries in the Middle East, where we can actually go in first? So that's their preoccupation.
Just trying to beat each other.
Yes. Funny enough that we have done a poll on WeChat about we're asking people who do you think will win the food delivery war in Brazil. So of course, I mean, it's on WeChat. So most of the audience, I think the audience who voted are Chinese, I suppose. So we had by now it's like 500 votes. About 60% would have voted for either Didi or Meituan, and about 15% voted for Mixue.
Yes. I was one of the 15%.
Why is Mixue?
No, because people are thinking that now I mean, you have all this like Chinese background food delivery players entering there, and they are going to need key accounts. They need to go in the chain stores who can actually help them build up the volume. And of course, I do think that iFood has a very firm grasp of the existing chains there. So fostering some of the Chinese chains to be in the market is probably something that Meituan has been thinking about. That's probably also why I think Wang Xin, the founder of Meituan, showed up at the same time as the mission executive to meet Lula.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Impulse podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or newsletter to stay up to date on the latest happenings and trends in tech, new retail, and the broader digital economy.
Bye bye.
Thank you and bye-bye.